Thank you for stopping by. I'd like to preface this video by saying it is not a knitting tutorial, but a means to provide you with some background audio content while you work on your own knitting project. If you're like me, you may find that you had set to work on a knitting project at home or wherever you are, and you want to watch some YouTube videos to kind of have going in the background, but you find that a lot of your favorite videos are very heavy in the visual content and not so much the audio, or you would probably miss out on a lot if you're just listening to the audio. So to provide a solution to that, I hope to give you more of an audio knit with me setting instead of a very visual setting. However, at the beginning of this video, I would like to kind of explain what I'm working on, show you what I'm doing, as well as provide you a description of either the products I'm working on or the products I am using at the time. So for this video, I'm working on a hat, and before I show you it, if you haven't watched my previous videos, several of the ones that I have going right now are of me working on projects that I plan to give to friends and family during the holidays this year. And it is coming to the end of May very soon, and some of these projects are pretty far along, so I don't have very far to go, but I also have several others I need to start, as well as one that I'd like to have a little bit more complete closer to October when I plan to mail it off. So because of how slow I am at knitting and because of my work schedule and other things that happen in life, I would like to work on them and show you and kind of knit with you at the same time, so I am keeping on track with my project goals, as well as not being as distracted as being in a web of YouTube videos. So it's kind of kill two birds with one stone. So for today's episode, I am working on the hat I mentioned, and it is also from this Hats On book. I mentioned it in a previous video where I am working on a fisherman's cap, and this project is also a version of that. So let me go to where I flagged the actual title of this pattern. It is I'm sorry, why did I call it a fisherman's cap? It's not. I'm thinking fisherman's sweater, so I'm crossing the terms, but it's a watch cap, and this is the Stockinette watch cap, and I am using a size, what size needle am I using right now? Size 6. So it's size 6 all the way around, and then I am using circular needle set that is purple, and this is the I want to say it's either the Susan Bates or it's the Boy brand that you can get at Michael's or Joann's. I think I picked these up at either or. I was kind of going to both stores. Where I live, the town that has a lot of shopping centers, they're both like within the same shopping plaza kind of. So I went to one, and where I didn't find the circulars I needed, I went to the other one and just grabbed the rest. And others I have found online through an Etsy store that I really liked. And so if I do actually provide any links below, I want to mention verbally that I'm not affiliated with anybody. I don't have any sponsorship. I'm very new YouTube content creator and not famous, so at this point in my life I am not providing any links to anything that I would get money for, or there are any discount codes, nothing like that, just to make that clear. And in the other videos, since I didn't say that verbally, you'll see that it's just in the description, because somebody kind of mentioned that to me after I was talking about what I was doing. They're like, if you're providing links, you probably want to tell people you're not affiliated, or you are, depending on the situation. And I didn't really think of it, but it's worth mentioning. All the links I'm providing are just to help you find what I'm using if you are interested in picking them up yourself. So for this particular Hats On book, I will have the ISBN listed in the description, as well as a link to a popular vendor site where I'm able to find the book. It was published in 1999, so I don't know if it's officially out of print or if it's still being produced, but wherever I can find it available online, I'll link that in the description so you can go and purchase it if you don't already have this book or have a way to get it for free or borrow from a friend or what have you. So yes, I am actually knitting for the small size, well, it's not the small size, it's like the medium size, yes. So it's a young boy, and I know he's going to grow, so I didn't actually do a tension swatch or a gauge swatch to find out how far I need to knit down or switch needle size if my gauge was too loose or too big. But from previous hats I've knit, my gauge hasn't been off drastically enough that the hat doesn't fit the person I'm making it for. So for hats, I have not been knitting gauges or tension swatches. And this is also done with the tubular cast on. They call it here yarn over tubular cast on. And they had in this book a kind of a lesson on how to do that. But in a previous video, I also had to do that same tubular cast on. And let me show you what the project looks like. This is the bottom edge of the hat, and you can see this pink yarn here is a cotton yarn that I've used as my provisional cast on, which is the tubular part. And then you can see at this point I have the cuff area, and that's just a 1x1 rib. And you can see I have this body part, which is the stockinette part. And excuse me, I have some of my cat fur is on it. I also have a stitch marker just to keep track of the beginning of my round at the end, and then I have my my stitch marker so I can keep track of when I need to make sure I'm lined up with that bottom one. For some reason I did that on this one where I have a stitch marker at the bottom, but the other watch cap I'm doing, which is the original 1x1 rib all the way up to the crown, I don't have one at the bottom. I just decided to switch it up, I guess. I started knitting this one after knitting the regular watch cap. And so for the pattern, for the stockinette part, I have to knit until it is, I believe, 2 3/4 inches long. Let me double check. Oh, that's a different hat pattern. Where is the one I'm doing today? Oh, here we go. So let us see. Oh, this is a good reason to check in on the pattern. I thought it was 2 3/4 inches of body until I start working on the crown, where are the decreases. But because of the size I'm using, this needs to be 3.5 inches of stockinette. So it's good to keep checking on that. And I do have my straight ruler. This is a triangle that I had just from when I was an undergrad, and I have a lot of art supplies that I still use today from when I was in undergrad years and years and years ago. But let me see how far I am. Let me get to the 0. Oh, turn it around again. And let us see. Without stretching it, I am just at 2.5. So I have another inch of round to stitches to do before I'm actually at the part where I can start decreasing. And I am using, let me tell you about the yarn I'm using. I'm using the Barraco Comfort. It's worsted weight yarn for this pattern, and it is just a nice kind of orangey color, kind of like a rust color, and it is 50% superfine nylon and 50% superfine acrylic, and it feels really nice. Like it doesn't feel like wool, but it still feels nice and warm. And this is actually one of the 2 colors that I used in a double knit project for the same young man that I'm making this hat for, and I got it at yarn.com. And I will say now, I will try to link in the description this brand of yarn from that site, because one of the 2 colors I used was a closeout, so they were just continuing the color, and I think it was the other color that's like a salmon color, and I actually used that same color for some socks that I knit for myself. Different pattern than the video that you may have watched already if you have been watching all of my other videos. And I have been keeping this project in this excuse me, gray project bag, and it is Stuff brand. It has a cute little, I haven't used the zipper compartment in the front, but it has this zipper in the front, and it also has drawstring closure. There's a little loop handle on the back, and there are there's like one big pocket on one side, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 little pockets on the other side. Maybe they're very narrow and long, so maybe like for your needles, for your DPNs, whatever you have that you need to store in those smaller ones. They're not very wide, but then there's like a big one. And it also came with this little zipper pouch that kind of reminds me of a pencil bag, but also could be for storing your needles, like your circulars. Everything is covered in cat fur because I usually leave this one downstairs by my computer, and just based on its proximity to my life and my cat's environment, there's always like little floaties around that end up landing on that. So I like to keep my project in there if it's downstairs, so my hat at least is fur free for the most part. So let us begin. Oh, I'll mention that the project bag here was purchased at hobby.com, H-O-B-B-I. It's, I want to say it's a Dutch brand. My very first video, I was actually using the Prim straight needles that I bought from that site as well, part of the larger order that I made where I had to make a certain amount of purchases or a dollar amount in my cart to get the free shipping. And the project bag was something I saw because I really just needed some yarn and some like sock grip things, so that if you knit socks or slippers, you put like these little sticky paint on the bottom so it like doesn't slide on wood floors. That's a whole different project to show you later, but I had bought a few things there, and the project bag was one thing I would like. I had wanted a second one of, because the one in one of my other videos I got on Etsy, but this one's cute too. So let us keep on going. And so you may hear, oh my, what am I doing? Oh, I'm like, am I supposed to be purling? Because I flipped the two hats I'm working on in my head, and so this is just stockinette. So this happened, I took this on the train once, and I was knitting, and for some reason I got past the cuff, and a few rows in I started like knit purling, and I'm like, whoa, this isn't looking right. And I realized I didn't get back into the process of just knitting around. And so I did take this one a couple times with me on the train, because it is at the point where there wasn't a quick jump between the two different patterns, or, you know, stitching requirements for the pattern, that I could just keep doing one row type of stitch continuously for a long point of time before I had to switch to another one. So I felt like it was safe that I could bring it on the train, because it's like an hour or so ride to where I was going and an hour back, and then plus the time spent waiting for the train to arrive. I didn't think I would get far enough where I needed to start worrying about what the instructions on the pattern were saying. So, anybody out there want to comment if you also knit on the train? Do you commute to work? I'm fortunate at this moment where I live essentially on campus where I work, so I have like a 10-minute walk to my job, but in the next 2 years I will no longer be on campus and will have to commute again from either a neighboring town or back into one of the neighborhoods I used to live in, or close enough to train so I can get to work. And I used to spend like 2 hours getting to work, and unfortunately I hadn't started knitting at that time, because I could have gotten so much done with my knitting. But I was reading a lot, and I got a lot of reading done, because I'm part of a book club, which is actually the reason why I go back into the city. It's a once a month club, and that's all I need considering my schedule and my work life. That's pretty much the most I could commit to is a once a month event. The most I can commit to once a month to Commute to where the book club is being held. And with that, I think that being able to knit for, 2 hours straight once a month is okay. But do you commute to work? Do you have any reason you would either be on the train or bus for a long period of time if you don't drive? Let me know. And then, of course, if you do you have like a special project that you prefer to bring with you on the train or bus? I know someone I work with who, she hasn't come to the knitting group we have on Fridays since I have been going, but she does knit, and she said that she likes to do socks, even though she personally doesn't like wearing knit socks because I guess the delicacy, how delicate they are, and the need to mend them if they do get a hole, because you spent a lot of time making them. You don't want to just toss them, if they snag or get a hole in them. So she likes them because they're quick, but she doesn't personally like to wear knit socks. But that's one thing she will take on the train a lot, or socks to knit. Oh. Uh-oh. Oh, phew. I had a knot down here and I was really worried, but I just pulled it, which I probably shouldn't have done, and it came out. So I was like, okay, good. That's one thing that's always scary is when you're buying this yarn that's already pre-wound, and you realize that there is a risk that there might be a knot in it if you don't just take it out yourself and rewind it into a cake. Some of the yarns I've noticed have that, where they're just super tangly inside, or sometimes there are knots, and I think it's craziness, but it happens, You can only quality check so much stuff, I think, when you're mass producing this, so it's bound to happen. So, yes, let me know about your Commute project of choice. I haven't taken, actually I did, the blanket video I did take that on the train in the very, very, very early stages of when I started it, but once it got heavy and became really cumbersome to flip to do the next row, I stopped bringing it, as well as stopped bringing it to work, so I figure I can work on it here. And I want to say that today is hot. Yesterday was hot too. I'm in an area of the Midwest where, I don't know if it's all of the Midwest, but we go through like several months of horrible winter. If you're a winter person, then you probably would love it, but it's just cold, and the ice is here forever, and it doesn't even seem until like maybe late May that we might get a little bit of relief from that. And then one day you wake up and it's like 80 degrees and you're like, where did spring decide it wasn't gonna come, and it was just straight winter to summer. And I really like the mild months, like where I used to live in the Northwest. You got your 4 seasons, and it was nice and cool and a little bit warm in the spring, and it was nice and cool and mild in the fall, and then it was chilly in the winter. Probably compared to where I live now, I would be fine with like maybe a medium light coat and not like a full down like I need here. But because I walk a lot, I end up getting warm really fast, so I don't even need like a super heavy coat here because I'm just like incubating myself inside of that thing getting so hot. So it kind of just depends on your own temperature, like what you can tolerate, but I really prefer the mild months and the little week or two that I have of transitional weather between winter and spring and summer and fall, where it's just nice mild sweater weather, or like a nice long sleeve shirt and a scarf and you're fine. But I wish I could control the weather more, or at least control how my body feels about it. So yesterday was really warm. It's a little cooler today, quote unquote cooler, but we're still around the 70 range. And the way that my home is, it's not well insulated. It was built in a time when people didn't think it was a big deal because the cost of natural resources weren't as high. So there's like no insulation. So I either have the heat on or a fan on, and there's like no in between. And I'm really debating on if I should convince my partner to go to the scary basement. I'm usually down there anyway because that's where the laundry is, but to actually beat all the spider webs off of our AC unit and install it soon, because it's only gonna get hotter. I'm really hoping it stays mild this summer, but I won't hold my breath. So let me know, yeah, in the comments, do you feel like you have a particular season you enjoy more? Speaking of seasons, there's a woman that I knit with at work, and she won't knit in the summer. She just says it's not, one, it's warm, like it's too warm for her to have knitting on her, but I don't think she knits anything super big, just scarves and stuff, but just the fact that I think she associates knitting with like the cozy season where you're kind of bundled up and you want something warm on your lap and you want something warm to hold, so you're knitting with yarn and all that good stuff. And I personally will knit the whole year. Since I started last year, I just knit all the time. There hasn't been a month I haven't knit. Have I been consistently knitting every day? No, but every week, yes. And since I started, I haven't stopped. So it doesn't matter to me, but what I'm knitting does. So like that blanket that I showed you guys, if it gets any warmer than this, I'm not going to work on it anymore until it cools down again, or I'm going to have to work on it like right in front of the AC. But I know I need to get a lot further in it in order to have it ready in time. So I might bite the bullet and work on it with like an ice pack buffer between it and my lap or something like that. So it kind of just depends. So I'm sorry if I'm holding my hands down a little bit. I'm trying to angle the camera a little more and a little more so you're seeing more of my work without me straining my hands to show you in the viewfinder. But at the same time, it kind of wears me out, but you know, there are ways around that, like getting a better camera or a tripod so I can really work on my visuals. And this may or may not matter to you. It's probably not a big deal and you probably don't care, but this is being held up by a cat scratching post, an old one. They would probably not like it very much if I took the one that they use all the time away from them, but old cat scratching post and 3 shoeboxes and the camera is just, or my phone really, is hanging by its life on some duct tape that we have. But I think the next thing, I asked my partner, because they used to be more into content, like web content, making either Twitch videos or like streaming live on Twitch or producing their own YouTube videos. They had a couple channels here and there that they would kind of pick up and drop depending on, you know, what was interesting to them at the time. And I asked them last night as I was looking at some footage from the previous recordings and kind of thinking of my name, you know, what do I want to call the channel and everything like that. And I may have name dropped something prior without actually investigating, so forgive me. That is not my intent. I'm just kind of running some stuff and then found out the hard way that my idea already exists. So back to the drawing board, but in the meantime, I'm pushing through with the content because I want to make sure I have something up so you guys have something to watch before I make my next one. And so I asked them, because based on my pay schedule and everything at my job, I had to budget for what I'm going to spend on next month. And I said, what do you think would be most important? Tripod or lighting? And they're like, actually, lighting isn't too expensive these days. And I didn't ask what exactly their idea of too expensive is, but I hope a tripod isn't that much, because I think, if anything, as long as I can knit during the day while it's still sunny, right? Like today is really sunny. The other day was overcast a lot, and I even had the window open all the way like I do today, but it was really cloudy. And today we have a full blue sky with some sun, even though it's it's like about 4 p.m. at this point, so I'm glad we still have some natural light. But as far as viewing goes, they said lighting would probably be best. I'm hoping to repurpose or reorganize the room I was in before, so I don't have to commandeer the bedroom if perhaps I end up shooting one day and my partner's home and would like to sleep or, get dressed for some reason and doesn't want to bother me, but I don't want to encroach on, their day's plans either by taking up a room that we would both share at the same time. So with that, long story short, I'm trying to make sure I keep my hands up into view so that you can see what I'm working on. If you are not just watching this to listen, essentially, which is the point, just to have something in the background. But if you find that watching me knit as well is something you enjoy, let me know. I am still debating on how to proceed with the previous projects I showed you, because I, 1, still need to get them done, 2, still need to have some content here, and 3, don't know how much of showing just a little bit at a time is interesting to you, because right now I've only knit as far as what you saw in the video, plus maybe a row or 2, and that's just the first panel and not actually the back piece, or not. That is the back piece. I haven't knit the chest piece of the doggy sweater yet. So if you're wondering which one I was talking about, it was the doggy sweater video, which was the first video I have of this collection. And I don't know kind of where to go from there, because I definitely need to get it done. But as far as what would be interesting for you guys, I might just give that one a break and knit off camera until I've moved on to another side of it, so that it doesn't look like I'm just knitting the same thing over and over and over again, but a different element of it. And I have a list of other things that I plan to show you guys too. So the next video, since I have given you a tour of all of the knitting projects I am working on that are active, I'm going to show you one that is not a holiday project, but an anniversary gift that I plan to have ready in October. So stay tuned. It will be coming, and I hope that in the meantime, the videos that you've seen here are of interest to you, and I hope that you've been able to provide me with some engaging answers to the questions that I've provided to you guys while we've been knitting together, so that by the next time you see me, I will have an opportunity to answer any questions you have or respond to any comments as well. And I hope to see you in the next one. So thanks for stopping by.